I'm Jim Collison and live from Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 2, recorded on March 31st, 2016. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the Clifton Strengths Finder themes, one theme at a time, and today's theme is consistency. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room. It's available for you right below the main video window here. If you just look down on our live page, ching.gallup.com/live, really the best way to join us live each week if you want to do that. You can also catch the recorded version. As soon as we're done, this goes into replay. So if you missed something, if you want to go back, if you just can't make it on time, you can still jump to the live page. And usually this is here for about 24 hours until we do Call to Coach the next day. If you are listening to the recorded version or need custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, send us an email, and really anything you can do, any questions you might have, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center. That's just gallupstrengthscenter.com for all your coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video in both streaming and downloadable audio for offline listening. I'm getting more questions about this as more and more of you discover podcasting and the ability to download this to your phone to listen to it later. A great way to recoup that time in the car, on a train, in a plane. I got an email this week. Somebody quoted me on that, so I know the marketing is working on that. A great way to recoup it. You can find all those resources at the coach's blog, just coaching.gallup.com. Maika Leibbrandt is our host today. She's one of my favorite learning and development consultants here at Gallup. Maika, don't tell anybody. Okay, I said that.
Keep that one. Keep that one quiet.
Let's just keep that one under. Nobody watches this anyway, so we can keep it under wraps.
Times Square, Jim. Times Square.
Great and welcome to another Theme Thursday.
Thanks, Jim. What do you do? Because I want to say you're my favorite of whatever it is you do, but you're just probably my best friend at work.
Webcast producer. Let's for this role of the many that I have here, let's say webcast producer.
Okay. Well, you do so much. You do it all. You're my favorite person today, Jim. Nice. So excited to talk about consistency. It's number 32 for me, and I'm pretty sure my life would be a lot better if I had it higher. Honestly, I've fallen in love with it as I was prepping for our Theme Thursday, but also, throughout my life, when you meet somebody who really espouses consistency, it's one of them that I very quickly grow some theme envy about. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Very good. 31 for me. So we're at the bottom. We talked about this a little bit in pre-show. We'll need some of you to chime in who have it a little bit higher. In fact, if you're in the chat room and you have it in your top 5, post that. Now, Maika, let's dig a little bit in on what it is.
Great. And again, just more generally, the themes in your bottom 5 doesn't mean that they're weaknesses. They're just simply patterns that you don't have much of, patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that you don't use. And so it doesn't mean you're inconsistent if you don't have consistency high. But let's talk about what it really does mean. So consistency is about, I think, having a great understanding of fairness and balance. And for me, I think the word balance is a really great way to describe consistency. It's an executing theme. People with high consistency are really great at repeated motions, and that can be about repeated processes that either deal with people or with things. But it is about finding what works and replicating it. The theme itself, as we were really honing and finalizing Clifton Strengths Finder, it used to be called something else. Consistency actually used to be called fairness. And I think that's a great piece for us to know, because it helps us really understand what can this provide to people. How can this be really a great strength for individuals to have, but I also see quite a bit of beautiful leadership capability within this theme. If you're following along on our companion guide, which I highly recommend you do, the very top of that companion guide, you'll find the short definition. That's the same definition that's on our Clifton Strengths Finder quick reference card. And it says this. It says, people exceptionally talented in the consistency theme are keenly aware of the need to treat people the same. They try to treat everyone with equality by setting up clear rules and by adhering to them. Really what consistency is about is that ability to understand where there is sameness and to even create some sameness and some predictability. I think that there's quite a bit of stability that comes along with consistency, because it is about calming the waters, creating understanding what works, being able to do what works over and over again. And I think being aware of rules and being aware of the effect that rules have on everybody, the leveling the playing field. If you were watching season 1 around consistency, Audra Pace is a wonderful manager at Gallup who talks about leading with consistency. And more than once, in fact, about 5 or 6 times as I was watching it, she uses the word fair advantage. And I'd never heard anybody use those two words together. Typically, we hear about unfair advantage. But I just loved that idea of how do you give everybody opportunity and create rules and make sure that we're all agreeing to rules so that everyone has a fair advantage. I think about somebody with consistency being a guardian, being a conscience, being aware of where things are out of balance and keenly able to bring them back into balance and provide that not just for themselves but for others.
Mike, I think one of the misconceptions I hear a lot when I hear from the community is this idea of consistency in behavior, like I throw a football or I do a certain action the same way. And when we look at the definition, this really is a focus towards how we treat other people. Is that correct? I mean, I think that's a common misconception in our strengths community.
I think that it probably comes from the right place, Jim. So consistency is being able to do the same thing over and over again and getting energy out of that repeated motion. It is an executing theme. So honestly, I think consistency, it hungers for equality for people, but it really hungers for that because it's how we do our best work. So understanding that it comes from that idea of how do I get the most done, how do I get the best quality done. Yes, I might have a way to treat people the same in order to get there, but it is an understanding that fairness is the best way to move forward, not just fairness for the sake of fairness.
Yeah, no, I think it's one I think I'm looking forward to it. We were saying it's all low for us in the chat room and even for us, so I've been kind of looking forward to learning a lot about it today. Let's learn. Let's think about its raw and its mature state.
Sure. So again, raw and mature helps us think about the development that can and should happen within every theme. Raw doesn't mean bad, but it just means underdeveloped. And then mature is sort of the other side of that. Raw consistency, people can look like being blinded by difference. So if you have high consistency, it means that you're very quickly going to be aware of when things are different. And if you shut down or you sort of throw a fit in that moment, it's probably just consistency in its raw form. The mature form of that is noticing and appreciating commonality. So when you're faced with difference, being able to pinpoint, here's where we're the same, and here's how I can help you fall in love with the places that we're the same. Raw consistency is, that's not fair. Mature consistency is, here's what's fair. Raw consistency can be kind of rigid, again, because if you think about the process side of consistency, of having a specific way that you go about doing things and having a predictable routine and having comfort and safety and beauty in that predictability, when you're faced with change or when you need to change, it can be a little bit difficult. Raw consistency can say, absolutely not. I've got my way of doing things and be pretty rigid. But I think mature consistency really could be a leader of change. And I chose the word safe to describe that. So rather than rigid, being safe. And when you speak with people who have, in fact, led change and have high consistency, it can be this ability rather than just jumping, from one lily pad to the other. I think consistency can build other lily pads in between so that you're never in that dangerous zone of, through this change we might just drop into the water and sink. People with high consistency can say, let's bring along some of the things that have worked in the past. Let's make sure that what we're doing is going to be predictable and everybody's going to be on the same page so that when we evolve into the changing place that we're getting to, you're going to know and you're not going to be surprised by any of it. So I think that lack of surprise, that ability to create some repeated stability is where they could create some safety.
Maika, it brings up an interesting point because sometimes I think we equate consistency as the opposite of change. In other words, to be consistent, there can be no changes. And yet, we know there are systems that are designed for change, consistent change, when we think about that. And so, I want to expand, as people are thinking about this, it doesn't always mean fly by your, that the opposite of this is fly by your seat of your pants, or it equals locking things down so that, like you were talking about in the raw state of rigid. It often, I think, sometimes means building systems in a way for people that will adapt to change but keep things fair. that's really hard. I think that's the mature state that exists. It's really hard to do.
I love what you said there, Jim, about keep things fair, because consistency is not the opposite of change. Consistency is the opposite of unfair. And if you talk to people with consistency, they get really sort of put off and frustrated by the thought that you could get an advantage by skirting the rules. And that might look like who you are, where you're born, the way you play the game. And with consistency, it's more about how do we set up the game so that everybody can play.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We have a Gallup, and when we compete, I've talked about this before. We have competition achiever really, really high. As a company, we cheat all the time when we do games together, and it's fun, right? It's all done in fun. That would drive someone with consistency crazy, I think, to see, hey, wait a minute, you're breaking the rules. Now, we know as a group, we know we're going to do that. In fact, there's competitions to see who can bend the rules the farthest, if you think about that. So it's interesting in that when we think about consistency, like those people, it's that fairness doctrine, right? They have this internal sense of justice, like this needs to be the same, and it needs to be fair. Not the same for same sake, but the same for fairness sake. Would that be a good assumption?
Yeah, I think fairness and efficiency are probably the motivators behind consistency. And when you understand that, it's a lot easier to know, wow, they're not just a stick in the mud. They really do notice any sort of sway or advantage that that a change would cause for people. It doesn't mean you can't change. It just means that if you're going to change, it needs to be equitable.
Yeah, as a manager, because that's not a great pattern for me, right? That's a lower pattern. I appreciate it, and I'm trying to learn to appreciate it in people who do have it and lean on them for that. They can actually have a really keen insight into what's going on in your group, and will give you feedback, and they'll say things like, hey, what you're doing is not fair. And that, as a manager, that is a really good, a warning flag should go up. If someone with that in their top 5 say that, as a manager, I think you should really start considering, like, okay, what are we doing, and would it be appropriate to back up or back off to gain that fairness?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see Jay brings this up, the contrast between consistency and individualization. Sometimes just when we're teaching it, I use these almost as caricatures of opposites, because I think what they both want is fairness. Individualization thinks the way to be fair is to treat everybody differently, because we're all different, and to treat everybody as unique individuals. The way consistency thinks we should be fair is to treat everybody the same. Now, I in the very first ASC that I ever taught, Accelerated Strengths Coaching, there was a woman in there who was the head of HR for a small firm, and she had both individualization and consistency in her top 5. And she describes it as, it's my job to make sure that the rules that we enforce keep everybody safe and give everybody the same advantage. And again, she used that word advantage as a way to build, consistency was driving toward advantage. It was remove anything that would create any sort of any way around what everybody else had to do. So it was make sure that we've got rules and processes in place that treat everybody the same, but then sit down with every single one of them and help them think about how they uniquely are going to develop and grow and succeed within that fair playing field for everyone.
I had a really proud strength-based parenting moment last night. I didn't plan this, but my oldest son was over, and we were talking just about what's going on in his world and some of those other things. I said, hey, what are your top 5 again? And he pulls out his phone. He logs into the GSC, pulls up his top 5, right? And in his top 5, he has consistency and individualization. And I said to him, what's going on with that inside of you? And he goes, yeah, sometimes it can be a little confusing in my head as I talk about those two. But Maika, you gave me some great insight into that when we think about the fair individualized advantage. When we think of taking individuals for who they are and what they have, and then building a process and systems that allow them to have a fair advantage, no matter how they're built. It seems like it's a dichotomy, but it's not when we think about it that way. So thanks for that. I'm going to go back tonight. I'm going to go back and talk to him about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know what? Just to be kind of cute about it, my grandmother's never took StrengthsFinder, but Grandma Garnita has 17 grandkids, and every Christmas we all get the same red envelope with a crisp $5 bill in it. Now, Grandma Skippy, you don't have the best grandmas in the world.
I know.
Grandma Skippy has starts shopping for Christmas gifts on like December 26th of the previous year, and we always get exactly what we're into that year. And I think about that as being two contrasting but beautiful examples of the difference between individualizing to make people feel loved, or the difference between making everything the same to make people feel loved. I never felt any more or less special at either Christmas.
Yeah, in Phil's case, my oldest son, he works at an auto parts or an auto repair shop, and he's the guy who you talk to when you're getting your car repaired. And so he has this. He also has Harmony #1.
Nice.
And so he wants this, like he wants these transactions. You know, nobody. He said to me last night, nobody ever wants their car fixed. Like they don't want to pay. You know, it's always a very tense situation when they come in to get their car repaired. And so he uses his Harmony to kind of, you know, make sure they're getting to it. And then he was kind of explaining to me last night a little bit about what you're saying, as I treat everyone as an individual coming in, because they all have individual problems that I need to address. But I want to make sure they have the same outcome, which is a fair price for the repair.
Beautiful.
And that they get out the door. Isn't that great? Isn't that a great?
Yeah.
It's like I didn't even plan it, and it worked out.
That's
My
perfect.
family's great.
You know what? I've never been more envious of consistency until I tried to sleep train my oldest and only son. We're very different places here, but you know, all I had to do was the exact same thing for an extended amount of time. Be predictable so that my kid could know what to expect, and it was the hardest thing ever for me. And I just kept thinking, man, I wish I was somebody who thrived in routine. And I got so envious of consistency and how much easier it probably would have been if I could be predictable myself, and then to have to follow and love following a set routine. And I think about how beautiful that is. And that's an extreme when you look at a parent and a baby, but how beautiful that is when you build relationships with people. They always know what to expect. They always know, how you're going to react to things. I just think it's a really stable, really trustworthy theme.
Yeah, but we not only need that for children, we need that for adults in the workplace.
Absolutely, yeah.
Early in my management career, a supervisor or my manager pulled me aside and said, Jim, one of the areas I really work on is with your staff, be a little more consistent in your reactions or how you respond to some of these situations. They are looking for a consistent response back from you. It's something I've got to work on. Certainly at 31, it's not a natural gift for me, but there are things I can put. I can use a little bit of maximizer in there as far as maybe think through it, sort through some things, contemplate them before I just come out. It's still a struggle. I live very much on the outside, and because of communication, I talk things out. Not always the healthiest way to handle conflict sometimes. Let's talk a little bit about complementary themes as we think about a couple that will mix in with it together.
Yeah, and when we think about complementary themes, it's just expanding our thought process around who on the outside, who might be a good partner with somebody with consistency. All 34 can complement each other beautifully. It's just a question of having that conversation around how. That being said, I came up with 4 that might be great complementary partners for consistency. The first one is achiever. So if you add consistency to achiever in a partnership, what you're adding is a cleaner system for the energy. So if you've got somebody with high achiever, somebody with consistency can help you say, here's the very best way, the very best process, the very best routine in order for your achiever to sort of light on fire and run full force. The second one I have is developer. And what that would look like is, again, creating a clear, clean path for growth. So think about somebody with developer and somebody working with somebody with consistency. What they could bring is, I understand you want to get better, and here's the way that you can do it, and here's the way that you could do it on the long run, that you could do it predictably, that you could do it in every aspect of your life, rather than just developer without consistency, which would look like this desire to grow and that ability to see incremental change, but consistency brings that ability to operationalize it. The third one I have here is maximizer. So I know you have this, Jim. Maybe a great partner for you would be someone with consistency.
I have the next 2 you're going to talk about, so I'm going to listen.
I know. I love it. So I think what maximizer can bring to consistency is a soft nudge in perhaps the best places that we need to change up our routine. So what consistency can bring to maximizer perhaps is that reminder that not everything has to be customized, and that ability to understand what does work and be able to help that maximizer think, there might be a best way to go about this that already exists. And the fourth one I have here is communication. I think what communication can do for consistency is really give a voice to the equality that consistency is aware of.
Yeah, I'll need to dig in when we get into the theme dynamics part. I'll personally dig in a little bit because I'd like to see those two in action. Not having it might be one of those questions I need to ask myself. Do I need to partner with somebody to help me with that who has high consistency and give me some things to think about? When we look at our database, we've got some likely and unlikely pairs. Let's talk a little bit about those.
Right, so in a random sample of 250,000 completes, your most likely pair, the most likely theme to show up with consistency, reminds me of your son here, Jim,
Yeah.
it's harmony. And harmony is about finding a place of agreement so that we can move forward. Harmony is it tends to be a little bit more about relationship building than consistency, which is about executing. But I think when you get them together, you understand why they sound very similar. Because consistency is about being able to take in the entire playing field and understand how balanced is that field. Harmony is the ability to really feel the entire emotions of everybody and find the place where everybody agrees. So both of them, I think, throw out a pretty wide net in order to quickly understand their world. And when you put them together, it's about equitable agreement. Not just where do we all agree, but where do we agree that's going to be best even beyond us, but on even a grander scale.
Yeah. It's fun to see that show up, in my own son. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, this stuff does work.
Hey, it works. Awesome. You know what we should have just had is have him describe what those two sound
You
like.
should have been the guest.
Yeah,
Today.
these theme dynamics are really fun, but they're always best to hear directly from the person who has them.
What about unlikely?
Yeah, the least likely two themes tie for least likely to show up with consistency. The first is command. And honestly, I can see these working out very well together. They just don't very often. Command is about having presence and being able to direct where things go, being able to influence the way that other people feel by staking your claim and saying how it needs to be. So if you had consistency and command, I immediately have this visual of you being a lobbyist for justice.
Very good. What about self-assurance?
Yeah, so self-assurance is about trusting in your own innate ability to do things, seeing yourself as an important part of getting things done, and the courage to know that you don't need external influence or external information even sometimes, that you are a part of the answer. And so when you blend that with consistency, I think it's courage to be the face of the systems that work for everyone. So, and again, maybe that's about fairness for people. Maybe that's also the ability to say, I understand our processes and why they all need to be the same, and I'm willing to, be the spokesperson who stands up and helps other people understand the beauty in the sameness.
Yeah, I think those are actually two world-changing combinations when we think
Aren't
about
they?
it. Yeah. By the definition, you think of someone out leading the charge for justice. Yeah. So maybe Superman.
Maybe Superman. I still can't figure. So there's a new movie coming out. It's Batman versus Superman. I can't figure out why they'd ever be fighting each other. But I think both of them.
There's just a huge misunderstanding.
Both of them would be the epitome of either self-assurance and command plus consistency. Let's look out for everybody.
I think Batman has the command and Superman has the self-assurance.
Thank goodness, that was weighing on my mind. I'm so glad we solved it.
Which, by the way, drives me nuts when we guess themes for superheroes. But that being said, let's dig in a little bit. Any other final observations, Maika, as we kind of wrap this?
Yeah, just a little bit, little reflections. I think that it's about finding what works and sticking to it. So if you're going to coach somebody with high consistency, help them figure out what works for them. And chances are it isn't something that they think about because they do it so naturally. So if you can draw out the habits, the structures, the unwritten rules that they come to, then I think you can help them do that more on purpose. So one way to do that is, help them understand their habits. I would think about, could you help them finish the sentence? To get things done, to build trust, to think, to communicate, I always. And so I gave you a bunch of things at the beginning, but help them think about those statements of I always, and help them draw into their repeated behavior and their repeated habits. What do you always do? How do you always need other things to be? So you can really, I think, build some beautiful awareness around what are your habits that work best for you. And then, nobody can teach you how to treat you better than, nobody can teach others how to treat you better than yourself. So once you understand those habits, it's about helping other people understand them as well, and really giving voice to, okay, are there some things that you always need in order to perform well? Are there some habits that you always follow that you'd like other people just to, to honor, to give you your space, and or even to join you in? So knowing the processes that work, help other people explore existing options before you customize. In a consulting world, we are always faced with the beauty and the challenge of being able to come up with new and exciting ideas. Well, somebody with consistency, I think, could really be a great voice to help us understand what have we done before that's worked, and how can we maybe use what's worked in a new and exciting way rather than reinventing the wheel. So I think that somebody with high consistency not only can be the Jiminy Cricket, the conscience of what's fair, but also the sage advisor of what works. Don't change it if you don't need to change it.
I like that example of Jiminy Cricket. That is a good one. If you think of a poster child for this theme, would you make that kind of an imaginary poster child?
I would. I didn't plan that, but yeah, let your conscience
Kurt would always
be your
talk
guide.
about having a poster child, right? He would bring those. When we'd bring guests on, he would do that. But when you said that conscience, right? That's, hey, is this the right thing? Is it fair? Is everybody going to benefit from it? The same kind of deal. I kind of like that. It's a good example.
Yeah, I think about a visual for this, and I had to Google this to even make sure it was a thing, and it wasn't something I made up. But I think about a meditation labyrinth. When you think about lots of walking through a meditation garden and doing it the same way, and the comfort and the groundedness in that repeated motion. I recently downloaded a meditation app, and the most important thing that it told me to do was to do it every day, and to do it over and over and over again, and coming to that sense of of greater well-being by doing something over and over and over again. I also think about what that can bring to others, as well as that equality, that sense of justice. I think we don't know a whole lot about it because it is 24th in our ranking of how often it shows up in people's top 5. Only 11% of the population have consistency in their top 5. So if you feel like you don't understand it, it could just be because you never met your own Jiminy Cricket. But I think we live in a world that really appreciates fairness, equality, and consistent processes. If you want to think about a sort of a phrase to close with, the one that came to mind most for me was, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Somebody with consistency just helps you live out that truth.
Yeah, I still get goosebumps when I read that statement. And we take it, we so take that for granted now in the 21st century. But it's hard to believe there were thousands of years of civilization when that was not necessarily true. And think about how those people who had the natural talent of consistency must have felt in these eras where there was a lack of it from that standpoint. So that's pretty cool that comes right out of the Declaration of Independence. So pretty cool. Let's dive into theme dynamics. While I'm setting things up, give a quick overview of why we have this and what this tool is.
Yeah, so theme dynamics are the idea of how one theme plays off another theme. What I love about StrengthsFinder is that you're never going to totally know every possible combination, because if you take a look at somebody's top 5, there's 10 possible different pairs within those 5, and theme dynamics helps us sort of simplify that by looking one by one and thinking about how do those play together. Of course, you could also look one by two or all 5 at once, but it helps us really dive into imagining what a person who has more than one theme would look like. So this week we asked you to vote on our Called to Coach Facebook page. If you're not a member, please just click on join and we'll make sure we approve it. It's where a lot of great conversations are happening regarding coaching and strengths. And we asked you to vote on 4, I think, Jim? 4 different themes that you wanted to see blended with consistency. Sometimes I feel like this is a case of stump the coach. Give me as weird as you can and just see what I can do. But we're also going to show you is a fantastic tool that's available for you through the book Expanding Your Strengths, written by Kurt Liesfeld. that is an ebook that's available on Amazon, and along with the purchase of that book, you get to take a look at an app that Jim's going to show you here on the screen, and you can look at every possible pair of what they look like together, and then hear some of Kurt's statements around what might those sound like if they both showed up in your top 5.
Yeah, and we'll pick discipline first, so consistency and discipline.
So consistency and discipline, I'm so happy you came up with this one, because as I was explaining consistency, it sounded a lot like discipline sometimes. I think the difference between the two is consistency is more an external awareness, and discipline is more about how I manage my own life. It's about order and creating order for my own execution. When you blend them together, I think it's orderly predictability, a clean rule follower, maybe even an organized referee. If you think about how Kurt defines it, it's you personally need routine and structure to help you be efficient, and your groups also need rules and systems in order to be efficient.
Yeah, 2 very powerful executing themes when used together, I think. And I love that last one. Your groups need rules and systems to be efficient. And we sometimes in technology call that scalability, right? It's the ability to scale out, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000, 100,000 or 1,000,000. Are there rules in place that will allow that to happen in a very efficient manner? So when I think of discipline and consistency, I think about scalability.
Oh, that's a great word for it. I think if I had consistency and discipline, Jim, when before this webcast and I was looking for an Ethernet cord, I would have known exactly where it was. But
we had a little pre-show fun.
I throw things wherever they fit in the moment that they fit there. But I think those two together.
I put them away, and then I don't even know they're there anymore. So
exactly.
That's we had to get a little Kenny G involved to come back down to earth.
Yeah, so thank God for Kenny G.
I know, isn't it great? All right, let's talk about consistency. Speaking of that, consistency and adaptability.
Yep, this is the one. I know you guys were squirrely, and you were like, "Let me throw whatever I can at her that's really gonna stump her." Well, good job. So adaptability is a relationship building theme, and I like to describe it as the willingness and the ability to give people what they need in the moment that they need it. And it's about the people that you're reacting to behind it. Adaptability is also about the present moment, about existing more right now than you do in the past or in the future. And when you blend that with consistency, my thought on that is it gives a presence to the fairness. So it's about, I'm always going to flex for the human element. I'm only going to create whole-scale change if it's the best for everybody, but I'm willing to be present in the equality for the moment, present for the people, but predictable for the process. If you look at Kurt's words here, you have a standard approach to most situations, but when change occurs, you respond with spontaneity and immediacy.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about when we take these what seem to be maybe opposites and when we put individualization in there as well. They absolutely can coexist together. Tracy in the chat room had said, man, wouldn't it be great to have discipline and consistency high? You know what, Tracy, and I know you know this, but don't have theme envy. What you have is awesome. And so your goal is to find somebody who has that high and take advantage of what they have in those themes. And I know you know that, Tracy. I'm not trying to.
I think that comment there from Tracy is proof that we have hit a corner in helping people fall in love with these themes, because both of those are very rare, and both of them are sometimes an enigma to those of us who don't have them. And I am just thrilled that people are saying, "Man, I wish I had those two high."
Yeah,
so that's awesome.
That is good. I do too, by the way. I'll just full disclosure.
Me too.
Let's talk about consistency and responsibility.
Yeah, so responsibility is about following through on what you say you will do. Both executing themes here. I think they can both look a little bit like relationship building themes. Responsibility to an outsider sometimes looks like loyalty because your word is very, your word is gold, right? And consistency can look like it's about relationships because you're constantly looking at for fair advantages for people. And when you put them together, I think about it as all of my tasks carry equal weight. I don't make a promise to one person and move it up that list because of who the person is, but I'm going to make sure that I give, equal credence, equal importance to all of the people who I've made commitments to. On the app here, it says you want to do things right and do the right things. Isn't Kurt awesome? That sentence by itself is just fantastic. But he continues then, this is more likely to happen when you have clear rules to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Sometimes for those of us who don't have these themes, and we want it kind of just to happen, and I think the key is to get, if we don't have these themes to do it, the key is to find this and let these people implement some of these systems for us to make it work. I have to do this all the time. There's things I want, but I don't have the natural ability to get there with it. And so for me, a little clue into that is look for consistency and responsibility in somebody's. Well, this is my oldest son, by the way, too. Responsibility is number 3. So we've talked about 4 of his top 5 already just in the show. I have to tell him to listen to this to get some insight. He wants to take it again. I'm like, no, just stay with it.
Phil, listen to this and tell us what we got wrong. Help us understand.
He's a super good kid. I can't wait to tell him that we talked about him today on the webcast. So let's talk about consistency. He doesn't have empathy, but let's talk about consistency and empathy.
Empathy is about feeling what other people feel. It's like a sixth sense, and it's a relationship building theme. When you add it to consistency, it sounds like, I think it's about sensing advantages, not just seeing them from a thoughtful perspective that maybe consistency would have, but really feeling them and understanding how balance or imbalance makes people feel. It could be really powerful if, again, you were helping, I think, fight for equality, or you are helping understand, are we, when we're going through change, how does this make people feel? What is this going to create in a broader sense? When you think about it from the app here, it says, when you see injustice and inequality, you feel angry. You believe that we need laws to ensure that all people are treated fairly.
Next week, we're going to pick up context, and this is one. Maybe I have theme envy over context because I love the history of things. I love knowing why things happen, and it's middle for me. So we're constantly trying to figure out where does that desire come from. But when we think of consistency and context, how do we think of these two together?
People with high context make decisions about the present and the future based on the past. Context is about having almost a storyline understanding of the past. So I don't have high context. I think that the Boston Tea Party happened at the same time that Cleopatra was over in Egypt. It's just all in the past. But people with high context have this great understanding of a progression of events, and they can think about it going backwards. When you add that to consistency, I think about somebody always having a very clear path for how they make decisions. Maybe it's always subscribing to LexisNexis, or going to the same resources to make your decisions, or understanding your best historians and coming back to those same people. Maybe it's also studying justice in the past. If you think about what Kurt describes here, it's your memory of what has and has not worked helps create more efficient systems of operation moving forward. So again, you hear the systems piece of consistency and the memory piece of context.
All right. Very good. Well, this will be part of the program. If I need to get things switched back over. There we go. Part of the program where we'll invite you in. I tried to get a little more time this week since we cut you out of the equation last week. Sorry about that when we were doing it. And so this week, if you want to join us, the link is in the chat room. Another good reason to join us live is you can do this part. You kind of need a working webcam, has a decent microphone. You can use your phone, by the way. That link I put in the chat room, if you open the chat room on your phone and click on it, with both iPhone and Android, it will invoke the Google Plus player.
Invoke the player.
Invoke it. And you can join us in here. It takes a little bit of work, so we'll give you a few extra minutes to kind of get in here and join us. We'd like for the consistency to be in your top 5. That's kind of what we're looking for. And then we're going to kind of ask you how's that working for you. It's kind of the way we get started and the way we get going. Maika, as we're waiting for somebody to join us, as you were watching Audra in season 1, and any other thoughts, any other insights from her? She's a manager, and we might have to hold that thought here for just a second. It looks like
some puppies are joining
going to get joined by Joe. Joe, hopefully you can hear us. We'll wait for your video. Sometimes it takes a second for the plugin to be invoked. And Janice, as you're coming in, just put yourself on hold or on mute for a second. Well, we'll do Janice first, since we got the video.
Yay!
First. So Joe, if you do make it in and we see your video, go ahead and just mute yourself there for a second. But Janice, can you hear us? Okay, we can't hear you yet. So make sure, just go up in the toolbar. There is if you go up to the top of the screen here, there's a toolbar will appear, and drop that toolbar down. The middle option is your microphone, and just make sure that is set to your webcam or whatever you're using from it. Usually, it works. You've muted yourself now at this point, so we'll see if we can get you live here going on. But Janice is working on that. We'll just wait till we hear from you, Janice, from that standpoint. See if you can get those things turned on, and you'll have to unmute. No, you're fine. You're fine. We'll work it.
You
we'll
look really good. You don't even look confused. Look at that. She's even smiling.
No, it's good. Go back up to the toolbar, and the microphone is almost all the way to the left. It should be red for you, so check that off so it's not red. So we don't have the mute going anymore because we see you've muted the line. And then there's a little round gear, that's the settings. There's 3 options in the settings. Your camera's great. The middle one's your microphone. You're hearing me, right? You can hear us? You can hear me? Okay, good.
Oh,
so the middle one is... Okay, let's see. Say something for me. We'll see if we can hear you. Nope, not yet. We want to make sure it's capturing your webcam camera. So when you drop down the microphone, make sure it has the webcam associated with it. No, not yet. We'll get there here in just a second. By the way, when I'm troubleshooting people for the live shows, this is all we do. I call and we spend 10 minutes figuring it out from that standpoint. So the middle option, do you see your webcam when you drop it down? Do you see your webcam in that option and Joe, if you can jump back in here too, that'd be great as well. But do you see the webcam as an option for your microphone? Maika, do you hear a little bit of...
I'm hearing you repeated.
Oh, so we probably have a... Janice, do me a favor. Drop out, jump back in. Let's see if that fixes it. Sometimes that works. Hang up the call, go up to the upper right-hand corner and hang it up, and then re-click the link. Let's see if that helps. Okay, we will try that again. The bane of my existence is getting things connected. It's always the hardest part. Her video looked great.
It really did.
From Audra, and Roy, if you're listening to this, maybe you can splice some of that stuff out for me. But from Audra as a manager, and we think any other insights from that season 1 that you have? No, Janice, we can't hear you. Sorry. It was such a good try. I'm hearing something. And Maika, you think that's me?
Yeah, I do.
Heard back? Does it sound good?
No.
Hey, Janice, one other thing, Janice, you can try. It's super easy on your phone. So if you have if you got your phone and you go to chatwing.com, here comes Joe. You go to chatwing.com/Gallup Strengths Center, and you can click on the link there. I hear Joe. Hey, Joe.
Joe?
Now you're muted, Joe. You're so unmute the up in the software. Unmute up here in the toolbar up here. It's over.
I like it when you point, Joe.
There we go.
Are you sure it's over here? Or is it over here?
I'm pretty sure it is. But hey, Joe,
we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I can hear you.
Man, we are 0 for 2 today. Make sure you can't hear us. I was gonna say make sure your speakers are turned on.
Not kidding. It just started raining here. The heavens
really?
Just up. Everything's going wrong.
We're just dumping rain. Joe, can you hear us yet? This should,
hold on a second.
Okay, first couple times we've done this. Just tell me when you need. First couple times we've done this, it worked perfectly, but now today we seem to be having those problems.
There we go.
Okay, you can hear us, Joe?
Can.
Awesome. So let's top 5, and then we'll ping you a little bit about consistency.
Okay. So top 5 are empathy, developer, positivity, strategic, and connectedness. And so I jumped on accidentally, and then you asked me to jump back in, so I figured I'd do that. But consistency is low with me, and it's one of those ones when I'm doing some coaching sessions, I'm usually like, look, these are my bottom. I have no executing themes on my bottom. I don't have consistency, deliberative, discipline, focus. Those are all my bottom chunk. But I work around it, and what some of the things we've talked about earlier is I found ways to go around it with some of my other strengths, and so that's what I love about this, is that you can do that.
Joe, can you be specific a little bit? Like, can you give us an example of what you're using to maybe when you need it, what are you using to help use, to bring that up?
Yeah, my empathy, I think, really helps me to be consistent. Particularly, I have a 3.5-year-old, and so the struggle to be consistent is there. It's very real, and I think the empathy can really help me to understand her need for the consistency, for the routine. We really figure out that when we're not consistent, things go sideways pretty quickly, and so having the empathy for her and for my wife of recognizing that need really helps. And so I have to really bring that to the fore to make our behaviors consistent.
I love that. Joe, can you think about when do you know that you need consistency? Like, what are some examples? Obviously, having a kid, I get, is one of them. But are there times when you think, wow, if I had consistency, that would be great?
Yeah, I think I've had some jobs where having consistency would have been really helpful. I particularly worked for a state agency where my boss was an executing domain and really wanted that consistency, the things don't change, this is the way we do things, and I'm more about let's talk to the people and figure out how we can get along and stuff like that. And it just having, and my strengths at the time were mostly raw, and so I wasn't really able to figure out how to go around those and use my top 5 or top 10 to get around them. I have adaptability number 6, and so that kind of conflicts with that for me sometimes.
Joe, where are you from? What area of the country, and what do you do now?
I'm in West Sacramento, California.
Oh, sweet.
And I'm trying to make a go of it as a StrengthsFinder coach.
Yeah, how's that going so far?
It's going well. I have a client, which is pretty cool.
Good.
And I'm furthering my development. I just finished the SBED 101 with Maika. Very cool. And I'm signed up for the 303 higher ed course, and then I'm going, of course, to the Strength Summit. I love it. It's one of those things where my last job, my strengths weren't being utilized very well, and I finally decided, you know what, I love doing strengths, and I'm good at it, and so I'm just gonna go for it. My wife was nice enough to say, let's see how it works. But it's one of those things where it's the flow, right? That's what I feel when I'm doing it.
Yeah. What's been your favorite part so far?
That kind of realization when I'm talking with people, like, oh yeah, that is me. That's my strength. Okay, I didn't know that. So that kind of revelation that people have had, or the ability for them to really kind of understand, okay, that's not an area where I'm going to focus in, so I'm just going to move forward without it. I was talking to my brother-in-law yesterday. He's helping me with some graphic stuff, and he's like, I hope I didn't hurt your feelings with my harsh criticism. I'm like, this isn't my strength. I have strengths in other areas, so I'm not going to worry about that type of stuff, the stuff that I'm not as good at. I'm going to find someone else who is. And so just that development for my personal experiences has been really cool too.
Yeah. You're connected with 34 Strong, right?
I am. Yep. Brandon and Darren are my
out of the Sacramento area, and a flag waver of StrengthsFinder for sure.
Yeah. It's been fun working with them. But to go back to the consistency, it's really interesting to kind of look at how it shows up for other people. I don't know anyone who has it high. As we talked about, it's not very common. But it is one of those things where I think we can all access it, right? We all have the ability to be consistent. It's just not what we jump into in the natural flow of things. And I think knowing that really helps. Same thing with, for me, and not to go off track too much, but like with focus and with discipline, I don't have those high. They're in my bottom. But I have a doctorate, so I can do it. It's just not something that I'm going to naturally glom to. I'm actually not going to do that naturally as the ones that are in my top. So, again, knowing that and understanding, like Maika said, the bottom 5 aren't weaknesses. They're just things that we're not going to access immediately. They're not going to be things that we jump to automatically when we're dealing with people and things. So Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think a good point to make here is also they're not what you do, and so you can focus, but you probably don't focus like somebody with the StrengthsFinder theme of focus.
Absolutely not.
You probably your version of focusing with high adaptability is probably needing to do about 25 things at once in order to get something done, whereas somebody with focus would get something done by doing one thing and creating some great blinders around it. So I think it helps us to see them not as outcomes, but as ways to get to outcomes.
It's a great point. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Well, Joe, thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it. Good to hear from you. We'll look forward to seeing you at the summit when we come here again. If you're listening for the first time, Summit July 18th, 19th, 20th, Omaha, Nebraska. Get all the details, courses.gallup.com, and we'll actually have some more details coming out in the next 10 days, which we're pretty excited about. Hotels should be coming pretty quick here, and then actual speakers will be coming right behind that. So we're pretty excited about that. And Joe, thanks for jumping in. Appreciate that, and appreciate what you're doing out there in Sacramento. My hometown is San Jose, right? San Jose, California, not very far from Sacramento. So it's always good to hear from our California friends. Maika, as we kind of bring this in for a landing, Janice, sorry we couldn't get you in here. It's a little bit of a trick. We will, and Maika, I keep checking Blab to see if that's going to be something that they're ready for. They're still not ready for us yet. So maybe by season 3 next year, it can be on Blab and make that a little bit easier trying this out. Any other final thoughts as we think about consistency as we kind of wrap this up?
I just think about it as such an incredible piece to offer to others. And I think no matter what your themes, it's great to think about what does it mean for you, and then what kind of a service does that provide to other people. And to me, consistency provides stability, provides predictable compassion, a hopefulness, understanding that nothing's going to change on you, nothing's going to be a crazy surprise, and a real great dedication to justice. So what a cool theme to have. I hope we helped you fall in love with it a little bit more, and I hope we get to see all of you in Omaha this summer.
Yeah, no, looking forward to summer. I told somebody in pre-show, they were saying, can't wait to see, and I said, yeah, I think I'm actually just going to set up a monitor at the CenturyLink Center or whatever. I'll just come in virtually.
I hear you can get in on your phone.
That's how everybody knows me, is two-dimensional on there, and so it's that might be too many people, but my woo is really looking forward to this summer and getting an opportunity to see everybody. If you haven't made plans to join us for the Strength Summit, there's plenty of room out there right now, and early bird discount that goes through June 1st. So if you want to get some information, again, I said courses.gallup.com and look for the Clifton Strengths Summit this summer. Also, great opportunity for some training around it, actually at a discount. So if you were thinking about doing some training, we're offering some discounts both before and afterwards, or some courses both before and afterwards, and some special pricing associated with that as well. And again, those details, courses.gallup.com. If you have questions, like if you want to talk to somebody before you make this decision, because it's a big decision, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, and we'll have somebody get right back to you. Remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center. Really, that's where the journey starts, gallupstrengthcenter.com. Send us your questions or comments. I mentioned that just a minute ago, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video. Just today, Maika, someone on the Facebook group said, how do I get this goodness via audio? And we have all that available for you in the Coach's blog.
And you were sitting at your computer going, I get to answer this one.
It was awesome. I live for that, right? I live for that. The way to get these via audio, if you want to download them to your phone, we have all the subscription links out at coaching.gallup.com/subscribe. Couldn't make it any easier for you to get there. Big buttons. You just push, and it subscribes you. So it's pretty awesome. Head out there and take a peek at that. We'd love to have you downloading these each and every week. Great way to listen to it in the car, on a train, in a plane, those kinds of things. While you're out there at the Coach's blog, the links to our Facebook group, our YouTube page, our iTunes and RSS feeds, our iPhone and Android apps, everything we're doing with weekly strengths wisdom, it's all available on the Coach's blog. I'll say it one more time, coaching.gallup.com. If you are interested in becoming a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, you can see a full list of those courses. I mentioned that before at the courses.gallup.com. Send us an email, certification@gallup.com. Lots of different ways to get involved with us, and we'd love to have you as part of the team. If you're interested in discovering all 34 of your talent themes, that's possible too, available at an upgrade at the Gallup Strength Center. That's available if you've taken it before. I would warn you, if you just took your top 5, let's dig into that a little bit before we start thinking about all 34. There are options, and there's some coaching options as well. Maybe you would like to engage a coach. Everybody needs a coach. Scroll down the page at the Gallup Strengths Center, and there is a directory of all our coaches that are available out there. There's 1,000 or so out on the page. Pick one and get some coaching. Coaching is always good. Maika is my coach. She coaches me every single week here on Theme Thursday. So, Maika, you are my coach. If you found this helpful, please share it. And we'll ask everyone to just pass this around as much as you can. We got a note. I mentioned it earlier, but sharing it with a couple hundred people every week, including the companion guides. Make copies of those. Get that stuff out. We appreciate you doing that. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.